So you may have noticed that recently I've been messing around with the other side of the smartphone world to kind of understand and see how the other side lives and compare it to, again, the iPhone side of everything. And today we're going to continue that because we got an exclusive first look at Google's brand new Pixel lineup, and we got our hands on the Pixel 10, the Pixel 10 Pro, and the Pixel 10 Pro XL. And I'm curious to know how it compares to the iPhone, because there's going to be some things that are very familiar to us iPhone users, but at the same time, there's some things that Pixel's doing that I think iPhone should really adopt sooner rather than later. So without further ado, let's talk all things Pixel, Pixel 10, Pixel 10 Pro, Pixel 10 Pro XL. Leave some comments down below what you want to see for a full review. These are the first impressions. Let's get into it. But now, before we continue, if you enjoy videos like this one where we venture off into the Android world and see how it compares to us iPhone users, consider subscribing to the channel and leave a comment down below or maybe another Android phone that I should test out. But now let's get into all the Pixel specs that you need to know. So now I do want to mention that we will be focusing on the Pixel 10, the 10 Pro, and the 10 Pro XL, even though Google did release a bunch of other products like their Pixel Buds, the Pixel Watch, their folding phone as well. I kind of want to focus on the main thing because, again, we're comparing it to what Apple does over here, and we're talking about the candy bar slap phone, and that's going to be the direct competitor. But from a on-paper standpoint and a spec standpoint, you're dealing with three different options like I mentioned, the 10, 10 Pro, and 10 Pro XL, and they all have various sizes and various offerings. So to start off with the Pixel 10 itself, you're going to be dealing with a 6.3-inch display that does go up to 120 Hz, but only drops down to 60, and you get up to 3000 nits of brightness, which is actually much brighter than the best iPhone that's out on the market right now. And that Pixel 10 comes in 4 different colors. You get it in Obsidian, Frost, Indigo, and Lemongrass, which is this kind of yellow-green color. And for the most part, it's following that same aesthetic that it's had for years now at this point. And then you have the 10 Pro and the 10 Pro XL. The Pixel 10 Pro is going to be 6.3 inches with that super actual LTPO display, so it does go from 1 Hz all the way to 120, which does allow for an always-on display, and you get up to 3300 nits of brightness, and that's going to be also as well for the Pro XL, but that one's going to be 6.8 inches, compared to the Pro Max on the iPhone side, which is 6.9 inches, and the regular Pro is 6.3 inches. This also comes in a few different colors. You're going to get it in Obsidian, in Porcelain, which is going to be their white color, and Moonstone, which is going to be their gray-blue color, and then you're going to have this green color called Jade, which is great to see. And I do think Pixel does a great job of offering some more fun colors, especially on the Pro side, which is something that I hope Apple does this year with their orange color that's rumored. And then in terms of internal specs and the performance, they're all going to be powered by Google's Tensor G5 chip, which is going to be their latest and greatest internal silicon. Again, comparative to the A-series chip that Apple has on their iPhone, so it is built in-house to optimize for efficiency. Now, from a raw and sheer power standpoint, Apple's always been better at giving us the best Geekbench scores and things like that, but Google's really prioritizing efficiency and battery life, and again, everything on the AI side. And then the Pixel 10 does give you 12 gigs of internal RAM versus the Pro and Pro XL gives you the 16 gigs of RAM for that little extra kind of oomph when it comes to multitasking and running all these different AI kind of thresholds that we're going to be talking about in a second. And then from a camera system array standpoint, the Pixel 10 has a 48 megapixel main shooter, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and then a true 5x telephoto lens, which is, in my opinion, one of the best lenses on the iPhone. That 5x telephoto optical zoom is actually much better than most people give it credit for. And then when it comes to the Pro and the Pro XL, on the Pixel side, you get a 50 megapixel main shooter, a 48 megapixel ultra wide, which does allow for some nice macro shots, a new 42 megapixel autofocus front camera, which is something that's going to be great for those FaceTime calls, or I guess they're not FaceTime calls because this is Pixel. But again, it's going to be great for video chatting, and you get a 100x ProRes zoom on the rear camera as well, which is brand new to the Pixel lineup. So again, 100x ProRes zoom I think is going to be great, but let's see exactly how it is in a future review. And then when it comes to battery life, that's where these things, at least on paper, are shining right now, because it's claiming 30 plus hours of battery life, and then there's an extreme battery saver mode, which turns off a lot of like push notifications and things happening in the background. But with that extreme battery save mode, you're getting 72 hours of battery life, which is 3 full days. That's insane. Once we get our hands on it, we'll definitely test that out to see if it's something that we can actually get in the real world. And then something new that Pixel adopted, which is a great segue into the next piece, is going to be Pixel Snap, because Pixel Snap is essentially just MagSafe. It's a new protocol for Qi 2. It's technically Qi 2.2 because it does allow up to 25-watt fast charging and requires those magnetic attachments in order to follow that standard of Qi 2, which is basically MagSafe. So Pixel Snap is going to be very familiar to us iPhone users. We got MagSafe back with the iPhone 12. I think that was 5 years ago now at this point. And basically now everybody's going to slowly start to adopt it because it's going to be the new standard universally, not just for iPhones. And technically it's not going to be called MagSafe everywhere else, but if you have a MagSafe charger, that MagSafe charger will work with your new Pixel 10 and with anything else that says they have Qi 2.2. Again, various charging speeds are going to differ based on what MagSafe chargers you have, but if you want something that's going to magnetically attach and wirelessly charge, MagSafe accessories will now work with the Pixel 10 lineup. But in terms of charging speeds wirelessly with Qi 2 and 2.2, the Pixel 10 does have 15-watt Qi 2 charging, and that's going to be for the Pixel 10 and the 10 Pro, which is interesting because you're getting the Pro level model, but it's not getting the full charging speeds. The Pixel 10 Pro XL does get that 25-watt Qi 2.2 charging speeds, which is going to be the fastest mainstream wireless charging so far. It is rumored that Apple will be also adopting that in their 17 and their 17 Pro lineup and things like that, but as of right now, Pixel for the next month is going to have a leg up on Apple charging. And then with their new Pixel Snap kind of ecosystem, Google did drop a bunch of new accessories like wireless charging, MagSafe charging, or Pixel Snap charging. They brought a bunch of different stands and ring holders and different power breaks and things like that. And then of course corresponding cases that also add even more magnets for even a better connection. So overall, that's going to be new to the Pixel 10 lineup. And if you guys want to now go out and get a MagSafe charger, it'll work out of the box without a case on your Pixel 10. And then I know people are going to have questions in the comments in terms of wired charging. The Pixel 10 and 10 Pro charge at 30 watts, and the Pro XL will be able to charge at 45 watts wired in via the USB-C cable. So if you do need to top out faster than what the wireless charging or the Pixel Snap allows, you can just wire in. But now let's talk about what impressed me and what I think iPhone users and Apple should take note of with some future iterations and software updates, because something called Magic Q was announced with Pixel 10, and I think this is how Siri should work with the iPhone moving forward, so let's talk about that. So let me give you a little bit of context into the current state of Apple Intelligence and Apple AI and Siri, because again, Apple promised a lot about a year and a half ago at not this previous WWDC, but last year, saying that, Apple Intelligence was going to take over your entire iPhone, and the iPhone 16 lineup was built from the ground up for Apple Intelligence, and for the most part, it's been a flop. And then at WWDC, Apple executives were asked what they were doing with Apple Intelligence and things like that, and they said that they weren't creating a chatbot, they wanted Apple Intelligence to kind of live inside of your iPhone and just make your day-to-day tasks much easier. Again, that still has not happened, and I do think that is the future of Siri in terms of how Apple Intelligence and AI is going to be working inside of your iPhone. But again, it's just not there yet, and we've been promised that for years now at this point. And sometimes it does happen where maybe if you search something, it'll know what you want to search ahead of time, or it'll auto add something to your calendar. But the next step of that is what Google announced, which is called Magic Q. So it's basically AI suggestions inside of all your applications, but they're also remembering what's going on contextually with all your different applications around it. So for instance, AI suggestions inside of apps, so you have your messages, your maps, your weather, shopping, streaming, they're all talking to each other in conjunction with each other to help you make a future decision much easier with taking all that context into effect. So it pulls intelligently from your Gmail, your calendar, your screenshots, your contacts. Of course, it's going to be all opt-in with Magic Q and Pixel and Google and things like that, but it will learn and extract information in real time, so then when you do ask Magic Q or Gemini or whatever the case is to do something for you, it'll get auto-suggested, but then also it'll take action on your behalf to an extent. So you have some everyday examples that are shown off here. So you have a dinner conversation, it'll auto-suggest times and locations depending on where you are, what time it is, other people's schedule, and the calendar, and your calendar as well. So if you have a shared Google Calendar and you're talking to somebody at a certain time, it'll not only suggest some spots that are near you, but it'll also suggest times based on your calendar and the calendar of the person you're speaking to. They also showed off a shopping link example, which pulls pricing comparisons from everywhere so you can make the best purchasing decision. Also travel plans, which then takes weather into account, and packing suggestions. Again, if you're going skiing in Switzerland, it's going to suggest that you pack something warm. If you're going to the beach in the Caribbean, it's going to suggest that you pack something like swim trunks or tank tops or sandals and things like that. So it'll just get smarter over time, and the idea here is to make your normal tasks on your phone easier versus being this chatbot that can kind of just answer questions and essentially is just Google search, but in chatbot form. But in that same light, they did improve Google Gemini, which is going to be their chatbot. They added the camera and the screen share abilities in there, which I use with ChatGPT all the time, and it is very helpful and very cool. It's essentially like you're FaceTiming an AI assistant that can then take that information and then help you out with any tasks you need help with. So it does real-time coaching and AI explanations, via the camera or the phone screen. And you can also, again, share your screen with Gemini to walk you through some sort of tutorial or a walkthrough or a how-to, or maybe something that's wrong on your screen to help you figure that out. So it's kind of like your ultimate troubleshooting companion on your phone. So those are the big things that stood out to me that I think Apple could take note of and learn and then implement into their iPhone 17 and iOS 26 moving forward. Again, having some sort of AI assistant, I get it that everybody now has something that's promising the world when it comes to Apple Intelligence or artificial intelligence, but I think the future is that things are just going to happen much easier, way more fluidly, and have much less friction when you're trying to do something on your phone, whether it's to add a calendar invite, something as simple as adding a new contact, something as simple as searching something in Maps, and everything will just tie in together so it happens with way less steps. So for instance, if you do need to, again, map something out, find the pricing of something, find the restaurant menu, everything will just be much easier to get to because it's going to know, based on all the context that's been given on device, what's happening in real time. And then I do think Siri should implement some sort of chat bot because it is so helpful. I use ChatGPT on a daily basis. I've replaced Siri with my action button to give me a ChatGPT voice assistant because I just use it. It's way more comfortable, it's way easier, albeit it's not super accurate at times, but neither is Siri. So having that and implementing that on the Siri side would be great, and Google has done that with Google Gemini, as well as, again, those magic cues, which just make your life that much simpler on device. But let me know in the comment down below what you think the future of Siri should be when it comes to Apple Intelligence. Do you want Siri to be a chatbot that kind of has a running list and archive of all your conversations, being able to then take that into account when you do ask it a future question? Or do you want it to kind of just help you with auto suggestions moving forward, like basically the early version of autocomplete that Apple gave us, I think with iOS 4 way back in the day, but just the ultimate version of that inside of all of your different applications on iOS. But that'll do for this video, everybody. Let me know what you thought about Google's new phones. This kind of does feel like Google is hitting their stride here a little bit. They're now taking the Apple and Samsung approach where they're just refining things from a hardware standpoint little by little, because these phones now are looking more and more the same every year, and they're trying to sell you, or at least emphasize, all the different software features that are going to make your life easier versus the hardware features. Do you need to get a Pixel 10 if you have a Pixel 9? Probably not, but if you really want things like the new Pixel Snap or the MagSafe, if you want to have the magic cues, if you want to have the new displays, then yeah, go get yourself a Pixel 10, but if not, the Pixel 9 should be good enough, and I'm sure it's going to get a good amount of these updates moving forward with a future update, but stay tuned for more information on that. That'll do it for this video, everybody. If you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. Let me know if you enjoy videos like this one where I do talk about the other side of the smartphone world, like the Androids of the world, because I've been having fun testing it. Android has a bunch of different variety, albeit it's a detriment to the ecosystem that they come in because they don't have all the different pieces of hardware like Apple does. But getting a folding phone, a flipping phone, a phone that looks a little different, that's bigger, that's smaller, that has all these different options, I'm a fan of variety, and I like to kind of play with all those different options if I do have the opportunity to. But that'll do it, everybody. If you want to watch more videos like this one, check out one of these videos right here. Until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everyone. Pixel 10 Pro was actually a lot of fun.